tornami vero del mio cuore l'inverno non cielo legna dura che d'altre beltà la costoro a Venezia e quel d'oro che il fatto ne miara la vita su di questo mi torna granita forse un'altra forse un'altra domanda sarà domanda sarà la costanza tirante del cuore testiamo valorbo palma per rodere so chi vuole si serve venere non va a mordono se non v'è libertà dei mariti il geloso furore degli amanti le sommaglie rido a codarco mi cent'occhi di sfido se mi punge una qualche beltà a se mi punge una qualche beltà.
And we're live. Welcome to Music Matters 2020. I'm your host, Jason Tramm, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our unique podcast community where we discuss the classical music world in 2020 as seen through the eyes of distinguished musical colleagues. Today I have a distinguished tenor with us today. Mr. Ronald Naldi is in the studio, so we're delighted to have him join us today.
Pleasure.
So please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and that bell for the most up-to-date information on upcoming guests and topics. And like us on social media and share our videos. Help us to grow this community. We are the fastest growing classical music podcast community on YouTube, and we're very proud of it. So why don't we jump right in? Mr. Ronald Naldi, I'm so glad you could join us today.
It's my pleasure, Jason.
Now, we live close to each other in Ocean Grove, New Jersey in the summer, and it's a close walk commute today. We're glad you can join us today. So tell me...
and we've worked together many years.
Many years. My 14th, but you've been here a little bit longer than I have.
But I remember that first thing we did was Idomeneo.
That's right. That was right. That was my doctoral recital.
That's incredible. That was such a wonderful performance.
2005, I believe, was the year on that one.
Oh, my goodness. Time goes too fast.
And that was the first time I worked with you. I think it was Jane Bonnell recommended... that I worked with you. I worked with her father at Summit High School, and I was a teacher there. And when I started my doctorate, I always had a love of opera. And I said, and she introduced me to Jane, and Jane's like, I know a great tenor who covered Possible to Big with the Metropolitan Opera, and that was Ronald Naldi. And then you were on the panel when I was a finalist for the job at Ocean Grove.
Was I really?
Yeah, that's the next time I saw you.
Oh, that's good.
It was you.
I made a good decision with the group, huh?
Well,
I think so. 14 years later.
In 14 years, we've worked together in so many different places, doing so many different
concerts
projects.
And operas, Nabucco, and oratorios. How many oratorios? My goodness.
Quite a few. And
unbelievable.
I'd say I've learned so much from working with you over the years. Wow. And I remember when you said you would do the Idomeneo, I called Maestro Silipini, Alfredo Silipini, who was my mentor. I called him right away and I said, Ronald Naldi's going to do the Idomeneo, and he said something that'll always stick with me. He said, Ronald Naldi is a master of the Italian style.
Well, that's very nice of him to say. We had many, the first time I sang with Alfredo, I never called him Alfredo, by the way. I called him Maestro Silipini, because to me, he needed that respect. He really was. He was an underrated conductor in many ways, but he was justly celebrated for being a tremendous conductor of the Italian repertory, the Verissimo especially, but Puccini, Verdi, but also I was so surprised because I worked with him first in 1978, I believe.
Wow.
And I sang with Robert Merrill in Traviata. I did Gastone. I forgot who sang the Alfredo. It's very good, obviously, because Maestro always hired good people. And I met him then, and through the years, I think I sang with Maestro Silipini probably 18 operas. And I did good ones. I mean, I did Rodolfo and Bohème, I did Pinkerton, what else? L'Elisir. I did many. I covered every major part, and did many, many, many roles with him. Also opera logs and concerts together, solo concerts. And he was a man of tremendous integrity. And I have to admit that when Frederick Douglass was done, the world premiere, with Mark Delavan was in that also, and Kevin Maynor, Clara Barlow, I was a little bit concerned because I'd never done anything with the maestro that was modern. So I didn't know how he would handle it. I was concerned because I said, geez, Verismo, Verdi, Bellini, Donizetti, phenomenal. But this is different. This is different.
It's out there, yeah.
And he not only, he just surpassed my own high expectations. He surpassed them because he was masterful. He was and he died too soon. He really did. These are the kind of things that we were in Japan when he died. Carney and I were in a hotel room, and I was on the internet, and I said, Maestro Silvini died. And we both thought, what? Was he 72, 73? 73.
Yeah.
And he was not in bad health. According to what I've heard, through the years, I think with the proper care.
He had SARS.
He did have.
He had the SARS virus, yeah. And they let him go too early, and that's what I heard too from friends.
Yeah. That's. I think
we were a week before that. We were discussing how many ringers we wanted. That was chorus best. How many ringers we wanted for this production with Aprile Milo of Andrea Schenyer or something like that. We were just getting discussions on concerts.
Oh.
I was a finalist for a job down at the University of Southern Mississippi at the time, and I got the phone call, and I was just devastated.
Yeah, it was just such a shock. And last time I saw him, obviously, like you did too, he was in wonderful, wonderful health and spirits, and I think Gloria was very, very. Obviously, she's upset that her husband died, but he didn't upset in the manner because I think something was not quite right in the treatment. That's the way we sort of felt in talking to people. Anyway, he was a wonderful conductor, mentor, and for you too, he was obviously.
Well, he took a young doctoral student who was young and enthusiastic, and he told me, he's like, you should go into this for a career. You've got some talent here. I really want to see you do this. And then when I finished my doctorate, I turned down 2 job offers, one in the north of Wisconsin and one in Mississippi, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to stay around the New York area and slug it out and see where it goes from there. You never know. And
no, that's right.
I'm so glad I did that because I've gotten to work with so many great artists,
absolutely,
and friends, and so let's go through a little bit of your biography, which is extensive and most impressive. And so Ronald Naldi has been sung on the stages of the Metropolitan Opera, the Lyric Opera of Chicago, Arena di Verona, the Salzburg Landestheater, L'Opera Française, New Jersey State Opera. He's worked under such distinguished maestri as James Levine, Valery Gergiev, James Conlon, David Robertson, Leonard Slatkin, and it goes on and on. And we have some singers he's sung with, Placido Domingo, Luciano Pavarotti, Leo Nucci, James Morris, Sam Raimi, and on and on. Over 100 operatic roles in 6 languages, spanning American, French, Italian, German, and Russian as well.
And Czech.
I've seen you do Russian and Czech.
And Czech.
And we got the updated list. He's done over 347 performances at the Metropolitan Opera since his debut in 1983. So
that was interesting because that was the first one, but that was on tour. I did performances of Rosenkavalier, just one of the servants, whatever it was. But from 78 when I first signed at the Met to 84, 6 seasons. I did only 1 performance in the house, and that was Hellenes. 1 performance, but on tour I did 8. But 84 to 93, I was not at the house. So it was 9 years that I was not at the house.
Okay.
So basically, from 93 to the present is the bulk of my career at the Met.
Let's go back in time. We'll get to the Met.
Okay,
we'll talk about that a lot.
Right.
Let's go back in time.
Sure.
Now, you're from New Jersey originally. Tell us about the roots of Ronald Naldi.
I would like to talk about that because it's interesting. First of all, I was born in Somerville Hospital at the same year as I think Frederica von Stade. In the hospital, but she's from Burnersville, and I really was living in Plainfield, New Jersey, which is not far from where I live today, North Plainfield. So I was born about a mile from where I'm living right now, many years later. So I lived in Plainfield from birth until 7 years old. 7 years old, we moved to my father's mother and father's home on a farm in White House. And there, the most traumatic incident of my life happened when I was 7 years old. We lived there for only 8 months. And when I was 7 years old, my friend, a good friend of mine, lived down the corner. And of course, in the country, in White House, down the road was about three-quarters of a mile. So I went to his house, and he had a wonderful dog, a German Shepherd. And I bent down to shake hands with the German Shepherd, and he attacked me.
Oh.
He bit me. He bit me on the face, on my right side, and I had 30 stitches.
Oh.
And it was traumatic. Even today, when I see a German Shepherd, I like, it's just a reflex. I came back they took me to the hospital, wrapped my head, and then I went to get my mother, and she came out of the house, and I was wrapped like a mummy, and she was, so that was very traumatic, and it really affected my life. I was I'm still very self-conscious of my scar, but you live with it. But that was my 7 years. So we moved to Bound Brook, and Bound Brook was where I matriculated from second grade through high school. Now Bound Brook was a very interesting town. It started off, a lot of the town was Italian American. They happened to settle there, but it was mixed. We had a Polish church, Catholic church, St. Mary's. We had Presbyterian. It was really multi-denominational, multicultural, and I was very fortunate that in the early years I always sang in choirs, church choirs, and in school, of course, I played clarinet. Started with 7 years old. My uncle Tony Doganieri, was the superintendent of music at Manville High School for 40-some years. I like to just digress one moment because this is sort of shocking. I was playing golf maybe 7 years ago, and I finished the 18th hole, and these two guys were talking about they were from Manville. And I said, "Oh, Manville." I said, "My uncle Tony was this." Your uncle Tony Doganieri? And they just remembered, and it was a magnificent. Another thing about my uncle Tony, he was a director of music. He played every instrument, and he directed a barbershop chorus. In the barbershop chorus was Bill Evans' father.
Oh.
The piano, Bill Evans. My uncle Tony used to pick him up to take him to the chorus. So they were called the Hounds for Harmony, and this Hounds for Harmony was a barbershop quartet that performed at Carnegie Hall. I actually went to see him at Carnegie Hall. So he was a very renowned conductor in the area. And a wonderful story about him, which just showed what kind of an ear he had. He once told me, he said, "The most magnificent music I ever heard." I'm going to digress on and off because somebody.
Please, that's why we're here.
He said to me once that the most magnificent thing you'd ever hear in music, he said, is a perfectly unison piece, whether it be a hymn or a piece of music. Many people singing in unison is the most spectacular. And I'll tell you, Ocean Grove, some years ago. I think before you, Jason. It could have been when you were here. On a choir festival evening, when the place was packed, the audience sang the Lord's Prayer in unison.
We'll still talk about that.
I tell you, I stopped, and it was like, Uncle Tony was right. Anyway, Uncle Tony, so here, about his ear, I want to digress about his ear. He was living in Lake Worth, Florida, in an apartment above my mother, Carlene, or below, I think below my mother. And they were having dinner at night at my mother's apartment, mother and father and my Uncle Tony. And in this complex, they lived right above a park. There's a park at Lake Worth in the Intracoastal. It's a beautiful park, and they have concerts at night. So they're eating spaghetti, whatever, and a trumpet player starts playing a solo, like a band, a big band, And trumpet player starts playing. My Uncle Tony stopped and said, "Oh my God, that's John Corluzzi. I played with him in the Coast Guard 60 years ago." My mother goes, "What?" "I'm telling you, that's him." He went downstairs, and sure enough, he hadn't seen the guy for 60 years, and he knew the sound of his trumpet. So that's the kind of ear he had, and he was my clarinet teacher, and it was the most oppressive time I ever had. You should never take lessons from your mother, your father, or your uncle.
Or your Uncle Tony.
My Uncle Tony. Because he was a wonderful guy, and probably a wonderful teacher, but I was so tense and tried so hard to please him that the clarinet was the bane of my existence. Anyway, so I was in the bands, in the chorus. Now in seventh grade, a person came into Bound Brook High School. His name was Gene Ferguson. Gene Ferguson was a mountain of a man, 6'3", 6'4", 275 pounds, a voice as big as a room, and was an operatic tenor, and had studied and was teaching to while the time away, as we found out later. But he was a wonderful, wonderful teacher. We had the tremendous chorus. We sang the Messiah. We sang the Verdi Requiem. We sang the Rossini Stabat Mater. We did the Messiah. I mean, it was unbelievable. And he had solos, and he sang the tenor solos. Once in a while, he let me sing a solo, but he sang. Well, in 7th grade, my voice had changed. 13 years old, I sang the Pirates of Penzance. 7th grade. 7th grade. 8th grade, I sang H.F.S. Pinafore. 9th grade, I sang Waltz Dream of Oscar Strauss. 10th grade, Carlene and I together did Down in the Valley. 11th grade, Carlene and I did Kittiwake Island. And in 12th grade, we sang something called Blue Moon or something like that. It was an original play by Peter Sellers. Not Peter Sellers, an English director. Anyway, Mr. Ferguson influenced my life tremendously. So we all of us took some voice lessons with him. He was phenomenal. He was just phenomenal. He had a great speaking voice, and he was able to discipline the most, Bound Brook, we had some guys who were really, really wise guys. High school, right? Sure. We had some guys who were precious. I mean, they were just out of sight. Mr. Ferguson, Danny, and it doesn't matter if the guy was 6'8", 500 pounds. Mr. Ferguson that was it, So he had this great command, Anyway, so I went through high school. I was basketball, played baseball, in the concert band, the marching band, all the choruses. I made all-state chorus. I was all-state opera soloist. I was in the Metropolitan Opera high school auditions. I was in the finals of that as high school. But, the thought of at that time for many people, including people in the family, music was a wonderful thing. Even no matter how talented, we didn't know how you would pursue it. So my mother and father and I made a decision. I had a scholarship to LSU for music, had a scholarship to Villanova for math or something, and I had a scholarship to Michigan State, math scholarship, to study math, to become a math teacher. Mm-hmm. My goal was to study math and to be a baseball and basketball coach, because I loved both those sports, and I said I'm not going to play them, but I thought I could be effective, motivate and know something about the sport. So I got the scholarship. I accepted the one to Michigan State University. Now, graduated from high school, I would say June 28th or something like that. All set to go to Michigan State University. After I graduated from high school, unbeknownst to me, Mr. Ferguson had sent tapes to Indiana University. He sent tapes. I didn't know this, but he believed in my talent.
Right.
And I got a note saying I got 4 scholarships to Indiana University. My mother and father and I and Carlene, of course, I was going with Carlene then. We discussed it and said, "My goodness, do you think I should be in music? I mean, I got 4 scholarships to Indiana University." Even then, it was known as a school of
always been
opera every week,
country,
right?
Sure.
And I said, "Gosh, I guess it's pointing this way." I always thought that after the years that followed, I said, "Mr. Ferguson, Gene, you ruined my life. You made me go into music." So he, the scholarships came, and with my mother and father and Carlene, we decided that I guess this is what I'm supposed to do.
It's amazing the impact those mentors have on our lives. Isn't it the directions? And
I'll tell you, just to go a little further, we kept in touch. He left Bound Brook, I think 65, after 10 years of teaching, or 9 years of teaching. Finished second to George Shirley in some big competition.
Wow.
Finished second. Sang Pinkerton in Milano. Went there, sang his performance. Got signed by 2 or 3 German companies. I forgot what company, Dusseldorf. Went to Dusseldorf and Dortmund and spent 25 years in Germany. Had a big career in Germany.
Wow.
Fantastic career. He was the kind of guy who, as I said, he was huge, but Rosenkavalier, for example, he could sing the Rosen. Everyone has trouble. Pavarotti had trouble with the Rosenkavalier already. He sang the Rosenkavalier. He said, call him last minute. He said, it was like pay me money. It's like a piece of cake. Because he had his high line. He had high E flat. And right through the, loud. And so we kept in touch with the years. He ended up he taught at Yale for a couple of years, ended up at the University of South Carolina, where my daughter Rebecca went to school too. But they ended up at South Carolina, and they had a wonderful life, and he and his wife Janet, and they had a place on the lake in Irmo, right outside of Columbia. And one day, 2000, I think it's 2000, let's say you would have been 77. 2008, I get an email from. I had sung a couple of performances in South Carolina, Traviata, and a couple of operas in South Carolina, and an email that said, Gene Ferguson died. I said, what? What? It was so sudden. It wasn't a heart. It was a cancer that was very fast spreading. He was just, and Carney and I were just so broken up because he was such a huge part of my life. I mean, he was just an amazing human being. And of course, as I said, I curse him for getting me into music, but of course I
facetiously.
Facetiously.
Yeah. So now you keep on mentioning Carlene. Now tell us about Carlene, who is here in the studio as well. Right. We can't see her, but she's here.
She's here. Well, Carlene and I go way back, to say the least. I'm Bound Brook boy. She was in Palmerton, Pennsylvania. She came to Bound Brook in the end of 8th grade, in the middle of the 8th grade year, and she was a little redheaded girl. And she was cute, but didn't like her very much. She giggled a lot. I used to always say, "You giggle too much." And so, we were in shows together, and we liked each other. But she went that way, I went that way. And after our junior year, something happened in junior year, and my mother used to always say, "She's such a nice girl." I didn't pay attention. But after the junior year, something happened, and we've been together for many decades. Oh. Yeah, she's been by my side, thick and thin. There's been a lot of thick, there's been a lot of thin, and we have 3 beautiful daughters and 6 fantastic grandchildren, and very, very blessed.
Oh, very blessed. It's amazing to have that life partner to.
It is.
A musical journey is quite a up and down journey.
And it's up and down. The
best of times.
Yeah. There are great times. There are times that what's going to happen next. It's amazing. So it's amazing.
Well, that's so people are commenting in here. Yeah. People are just really appreciating that some history in your life and background. So college, what was college like for you?
Very interesting. Went to IU. I went in a car with another girl. Arlene Edelberg was her name. Dr. Edelberg was her father, Bound Brook person, and we both. He drove. The 2 of us went to Indiana together, across Columbus, Ohio, into Indianapolis, and then to Bloomington. Well, I have to say, I was in a dorm, Walnut Hall, and I was really, really bereft. I was lonely. It was like 800 miles away from home, 750. First time I've been away from home. Like one of my friends said, he was going to go to Notre Dame, but they wouldn't let him commute. They wouldn't let me commute either. So anyway, so I was in the dorm, and the guys were great, but I was really lonely, and I didn't know anything. This gives you an example. I go to register, for the classes. Everything was paid for me, thank God. Books and scholarship, everything. But I had to still sign up. We signed up in the field house. Just like 10,000 people signing up. This class wasn't available. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then I go to the music school, and they say, "Who do you want to study with?" This is Indiana University. I knew nothing. Literally nothing. So they go, "Well, you probably should study with a male." I said, "Well, yeah, that sounds right. I'm 18 years old." And they said, "How about Charles Kuhlman?" I said, "Oh, that sounds good. Who's Charles Kuhlman?" This shows how ignorant I am, right? Charles Kuhlman, to the uninitiated, had a magnificent career. Born in Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut, German parents. Went to Yale, studied to be a doctor. Went to Germany to sing in a glee club. Somebody heard him. Great voice. By the time he was 30, he was singing with Bruno Walter in Salzburg. Then met in 1935. Was at the Met for 27 years. Sang hundreds of performances of everything. Made movies. Made records. Who's Charles Kuhlman? That's me. Okay. So anyway, Charles Kuhlman was, and he was a great man. So we had auditions for the opera theater, and everyone said, everyone auditions. So I went. I knew 2 arias. I knew Dalla Sua Pace, which I sang for Allstate. I made the Allstate opera soloist, Don Giovanni. I sang in Dalla Sua Pace. I knew that. And I knew Questo Quella. 2 arias. So I'll sing Questo Quella. It's more exciting. Sang Questo Quella. Went okay. Everyone seemed to like it. A lot of, there was like 300, 400 people in the auditorium, and So this is an incredible story, and absolutely true. 2 stories. First one is this. They have casting at IU, There's an A cast and a B cast. Sometimes the B cast gets performances, sometimes not, but it's an honor to be cast. So I'm at the board looking at these strange castings, and I see next to me is a friend now in the school. His name is Tom Wright. Thomas Wright from Oklahoma. Tom was 18, and his knowledge of opera compared to mine was like, I'm a 2, he's a 98. You know what I mean? He knew everything because he was in music history. He wasn't a performer, but he knew music history. He knew everything. He knew the operas, the roles. So I'm standing there with Tom saying, Tom, look at these. Hey, Tom, look at in the beginning. Tamino. Ronald Naldi. Is Tamino a good role? And Tom goes, is Tamino a good role? You're a freshman. You see Tamino. I went, is that good? He said, oh my God, this is great. So it goes on. I go to Mr. Kuhlman. And I start studying Tamino with Mr. Kuhlman. Halfway through the semester, he goes, you cannot sing this part. I said, oh, it was difficult, 18 years old. He goes, you can't sing. I said, Mr. Kuhlman, I think I can. He said, I wanted to I told him you should sing Alfredo. You could do Alfredo. He said, but Tamino is too hard. He goes, and Mr. Kuhlman was the kind of guy, I didn't appreciate it. I appreciate it now. He wasn't what's the word when a person who was a technician. He wasn't a technician. He was more of an interpretation, feeling, sound. And I would sing a note, and he'd go, no, and he'd go, ah. This is a 60-year-old man, right? And I'm 18. I said, what the hell was that? What kind of, I can't even, whatever you're doing, I don't even know what that is, right? But I didn't appreciate it because I couldn't imitate it, but looking back in time, I think it would have been a tremendous path to take, quite frankly. I didn't. I went one semester with him. But eventually I did do Tamino, a performance before my 18th birthday, before my 19th birthday. Wow. So I sang Tamino at 18 years old. At IU, I sang 12 leading roles, 6, a couple of world premieres and stuff, choruses, and I had 18 total roles with choruses, a couple 3-chord, 21 roles,
So who was there when you were there? Any luminaries?
Well, there were many luminaries. Madame Mansky, Dorothy Mansky, Rose Bampton. Oh my God, who else? Oh God. I can't even think. Baritone, tremendous baritone. I can't think of his name. It's a fabulous baritone. Marco Rothmuller. I remembered his name. Gosh, yeah. And a couple other phenomenal names and talents. I studied with Kuhlman for 1 year. As I said, I was not satisfied technically because I wanted to know everything. A little bit of stupidity, youth and impetuous. So I went to another teacher who was not good. I don't mention his name. Then I went to Margaret Harshaw. No. I went back to Kuhlman my junior year. Very successful. But then I left him again to go with Margaret Harshaw, who was, for my senior and graduate year, I studied with Margaret Harshaw. So that was memorable. And I also coached with some incredible Frank St. Ledger. What stories? Frank St. Ledger, I don't know if it's way past our time. Frank St. Ledger was the associate's assistant to Edward Johnson. Edward Johnson? Who was the Edward? Yeah, Edward Johnson was the head of the Met. The guy who was the yeah, the one who was the guy who Bing took over from him. Johnson. I think it's Edward Johnson. He was a great tenor. Took over the Met, well liked by everybody. Frank St. Ledger was his assistant. And Frank knew where all the bodies were buried. So I did my graduate recital with him. He told me the most wonderful stories. He told me a couple of things that I think are pertinent to singers today. One is, he said that he thought that many singers, even gifted ones, Mark Delavan alluded to this in his interview. He thought that many singers, even very, very talented ones, should start in an opera chorus when they're 18. He said, get next to the great singers. Learn the operas, learn the languages, learn what they do on stage, and then go to the next step. Like Mark said,
I think it's a great, because the only way there's so much tradition and history, and no one knows this. You have to learn it over years and years and years. And being in the chorus, I was in the chorus. I used to sing before I became a conductor. I was a capo tenor. I sang in choruses, and just getting to watch the great singers and the great conductors, and then when I decided to become a conductor, I used that as a chance to watch the great conductors all the time, take notes, what worked, what didn't work. That's the only way to learn.
Well, it's a great way to learn. Unfortunately, I didn't go that route because I was cast immediately into leading roles, and of course, it was overwhelming to be in such situations. I think I handled it okay, but it was difficult. My growth was not stunted, certainly not, but I think if I had my druthers, you never want to live your life again. I would not want to, because I would know who knows what's going to happen, But if I had an ideal, I think starting again, I think I would have been less technical, more developmental, taking your time more. Everyone has their own. Mark had his own way to go. Everyone has their own. Kevin everyone goes their own pace. Mine was like whoop, 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 up down, like that. But I had some wonderful, wonderful performances at IU. The conductors, Tibor Kozma, a Hungarian maestro who conducted at the Met. A real martinet, Mr. Naldi, you will do it my way, that kind of guy. What tempo do you do? No, that's just not. You take it to my tempo. He was wonderful. Then we had Wolfgang Vacano, was a Viennese. He was more of a gentle kind of, get along with. The stage directors were like people like Hans Busch, Fritz Busch's son.
Wow.
I mean, oh boy. He would be the guy we'd make fun of him because he would be yelling, "Find your light! Find your light!" He would say. You go find the stage. You go, "Find your light!"
Sage advice.
Sage advice. And then it was the other stage director was Ross Allen. I don't know if you know that name at all.
No name.
Ross Allen was the most brilliant human being. He had a tip. He would go like this when he was thinking his thought. He was just so intense, but he was brilliant. So I had Alan and Hans Busch and Wolfgang Vacano, Tibor Kozma, and colleagues. My God, Jay Willoughby was there. Royce Samuelson, Roger Avronic, Tom West, Johnny Walker. John Walker, what a story that is. John Walker was a guy from Illinois, a farmer type guy. He said, "I'm not a tenor. I'm a man." He would go, "I'm not a tenor." He actually lived in the same house we did right across the hall. And I would say to John was the most wonderful actor on stage, natural, handsome guy, blonde hair. He looked like Robert Redford to me. Do you think so? A little bit like Robert Redford, that type, and wonderful actor. And he had a voice that was so easy and so smooth and so good. The top for me, as I was younger than he was. The top. I used to say, "Johnny, you're really great." I said, "But you don't have a top. I have a better top than you have. You got to work on your top." It's like the arrogance of a 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old.
You know everything at that age.
Yeah, I know everything. I know everything.
As we get older, not so much.
That's right. Anyway, so Johnny was great, and so it's colleagues like that. And getting back to Frank St. Ledger telling me so many wonderful stories about the chorus thing, being in a chorus fan. He also told me stories about UC Bierling, who was at that point in my life. It was two tenors in my life, or three, I should say, Gili, Caruso, and Bierling. They were the triumvirate. For me, they were the best. And as I went through my life, I've changed through, added and subtracted. But Gili and Caruso and Bierling stand up pretty well at any age era.
For me too. Actually.
Yeah.
Bierling was number one.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Wunderlich came up there too.
He was great, but I, Gili, of course, for me was the quintessential sound, and Caruso was absolutely a phenomenon of all time. There's no doubt that voice was a voice that was. It's totally inimitable. It's a special. It's really throaty, but when you hear it on the Victrola, which I have, I'll tell you that story too. It's a great story. When you hear it on the Victrola, you listen and you go, "Oh, no wonder why people went crazy," because it was almost like it was. It just okay. So Frank St. Bierling, he said, UC Bierling he had just died. He died. In September, my first 2 weeks in college, Bierling died in September. And I remember saying, "Oh, God, he was 48. 48 years old, 49 years old. And this friend of mine, can't think of his name now, I can't think of his name, baritone, John Large said to me, he said, he was wonderful. He was great. He said, and he'll get better every year. Talk about cynical. But he said he'll get better because it was a legend. And he actually,
sure,
that's
that
true.
sense. That's true.
But Frank Sinatra told me, and he was an alcoholic, and when his wife's book came out, the wonderful book by his wife, everyone should get the Jussi Björling biography by his wife. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you cry. If you love Björling, you will cry. Bill McDonald and I read the book, and we discussed it, and we literally, both of us started crying because it's just so sad. Because he had an alcoholic problem that was so severe that he would say, I'll never get drunk. I won't drink. One drink, boom. And then he would go in his room. His wife describes it. He'd go in his room, lock himself in, and just cry. The second day, he would be, please forgive me. I'll never do it again. Third day, he was okay. But it was a process, like 3 or 4 or 5 days. So Frank Sinatra said, well, it's true. He drank. Frank told me, he said, yeah. You know what we did a couple times? He said, you can't believe it. He would sing around him. Adieu. 7:30 curtain. It was, or 8 o'clock curtain, whatever it was then. I think it was 8.
At the Met?
I think it was 8 then.
Yeah.
Because in the 40s, I said, no, Bruce Björling. And they would scour the bars. And they find him on the bar drunk. They take him out, put him in costume and makeup, push him on the stage, never missed a note. He said he never missed a note. He said it was absolutely perfect. He knew the words and the music so perfectly. He was like this. So it was fantastic in Indiana. I went there 5 years. I got my bachelor's degree, BM in music, voice. My master's degree in 1 year and 1 summer. Oh,
wow.
Miracle. Actually 1 year and 2 summers. And that's funny too because I started it. I started just writing after my graduate, my BM, started writing on my master's the next summer. But I had to take 3 tests. I had to take a voice, sing. I wasn't worried about that. Theory test, music history, and sight singing. 4 tests. So I was worried about music theory and history because you never know what's going to happen. I wasn't worried about the voice or sight singing by that time. So I passed the voice, passed the music theory, passed history. I failed sight singing. I said, what? When did we do it again? I can't. There's no way. I could. He said, no, you got to take a class.
Oh no.
So I started my graduate degree having to take a class in sight singing. I was so arrogant because I said, no way, I shouldn't take sight singing. I know it's well, believe it or not, I learned so much in that sight singing class. I did end up not teaching, but helping 3 or 4 others in the class. But I really learned a lot from that class. I dropped my arrogance, and I did. So I got my master's degree. Now, here I am. I finished the summer, 2 semesters. Now, I also had to take a piano proficiency. I take piano because I couldn't play piano. I took a class in my the fall semester, and I went for the proficiency, and I passed the proficiency. The teacher had given me a C. This is the master's degree. She said, if I knew you passed, I would have given you a B. She said, because I didn't think you passed either. So I passed the proficiency. But I got to, at the end of the spring semester, I was 12 hours short of a master's degree. The guy who lived downstairs, Don Felker, said, you got to do it now. You'll never come back to school. I said, 12 hours? I got to take 4...
It's a whole full-time semester. Yep.
4 major courses. One was voice, recital and voice. But 3 4-hour of 3 credit classes. I did it. I got A's. I don't know. I got A's only because a person named Rosemary, I can't think of her last name, helped me in the summertime in the library. I had received a Fulbright scholarship to Rome in March of that year, before the summer. So I was going to Rome in '65.
What was the topic of the Fulbright?
The voice.
Just voice.
Just voice. The topic was this: we were going to go. This is how it was set up. You're going to go to Rome. You will study at the Rome Opera House. You will coach with Luigi Ricci who wrote the cadenzas, all the famous Ricci, and you will coach and you will learn roles and you will be affiliated with the opera house to be in smaller roles and be in the opera house. Wow.
Dream come true.
It was. And I had my references. They told me afterwards, the committee actually told me that my references were the best references they ever had for a Fulbright scholar. I had Mario Cristini, who was the stage director. I had Margaret Herschel, Charlie Kuhlman. I think there were 3, and maybe somebody else, academic. They said it was the best. So I had the Fulbright. But here I am 12 hours short of my master's. The guy downstairs said to me, you got to do it now. I said, geez, 3, I used, but I did it. So I did it. So I went to Rome on a Fulbright scholarship. And got to Rome.
What was it like going to the heart, Sacred Heart of Opera?
Well, let me tell you first what happened. What happened first was, Carlene and the girl, I had 2 daughters by that time, Rebecca and Ronnie and Rebecca. And they were going to stay with my mom and dad in Bound Brook for the first 8 months. Then they were going to join me if I got a renewal. So I had to go to the draft board. It was the Vietnam War. And I had to go to the draft board and say, I'm leaving the country. Now this is on the record. Doesn't matter now. They can arrest me, so I can tell the story.
I'll be waiting outside.
It doesn't matter. They're waiting outside to arrest me. The agents and the sheriffs. Maybe Mr. Trump is ready for me. But anyway, in any case, I went to the draft board in Somerville, and they said, I said I'm married. I have 2 children. Been married for 4 years, and they said, well, you can't leave the country. Because I told them I was going to leave to go to Rome in 2 weeks, September 5th. I said, oh, no, you can't leave the country. I said, okay. I walked out of the place in Somerville, and I haven't been back since, and I never heard from it. So I just, okay, I'm guilty. But in any case, I mean, really, first of all, really. So I went to Rome, took the boat to Rome, and got to Rome, and the situation.
You took a boat to Rome?
Took a boat. The U.S. consulate.
How long did that take?
I was 12 days. Phenomenal. Everyone got sick, but Bruno Amato and I. And Bruno has remained a friend forever. Neither one of us got sick, but everyone else got sick. When I got to Rome, found out the first day that the connection to the Rome Opera House was broken. No more connection. We had to go to Santa Cecilia to take music theory, music history, go back to school. And I said to the Fulbright committee, I said, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I said, I'm serious. I said, guys, listen. I went, first couple of weeks I went. And after that I said, listen, I had just spent 5 years, 194 credit hours. Because the undergraduate had 150 some hours. Because you know how music is. You take all these hours and get 1 credit.
Yeah.
You know?
It's still like that.
Yeah. I was still like that. I thought it was 120. My daughters got 120. They graduate from college. I had 153. Anyway, undergrad, 41 grads, 194 hours. I said, I just went to school for 5 straight years, 194 credits. I sang 14 operas, 4 other operas. I'm not coming to school. I'm not coming to Rome to go to school. I want to coach and I want to study voice. I want to coach and study voice. I said, all right. We'll see. So I found a voice teacher, Licinio Francardi. He was a very small man who had a nice little career, sang with Callas. He was a lyric tenor, seemed to suit what I wanted to do at that time. And I coached with Luigi Ricci, who was a character. Luigi Ricci was literally, I think Francardi and he together were 10 feet tall. Together. So he was 5 feet, and Francardi was 5 feet. I was not joking. They were little men, but they were powerhouses. Luigi Ricci, the first time I went to a studio, Cinque Giovanni Amendola. How do you remember things like that? That's the street he lived on in Rome, right outside of the Opera House. Cinque Giovanni Amendola. So I went to his studio, and wow, it was like formal, you know? I mean, venite, entrare. Came in, went to the back room. His son had opera sets. He was like 13 years old. He had these big opera sets. He would like marionettes and stuff.
Wow.
And I met Luigi Ricci, and he coached. Very interesting. Half-hour coachings. I guess I did Traviata first. I don't know. So I was doing Traviata. What is the first act? All of a sudden I hear, ding! He jumps up. Boom! He says, "Grazie, buongiorno, ci vediamo la prossima." I said, "What? Half an hour." At the half-hour mark, the lesson stopped. He said, "Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Good. Have a good day. Bye." And that's what it went. Half an hour. Boom.
Finito.
Not 1 minute more. Not 1 minute less. It's over. In the middle of a. Oh, bing. Okay, it's over. So that was with him, and that was I learned maybe 9 operas. I don't know how it happened, but I applied for the renewal, and I got a renewal, which was extraordinary because I didn't do the program.
Right.
They let me do what I was doing. Study with Francardi voice and Ricci voice, and Carlene came with the girls, and we had a wonderful 22 months. I was 22 months in Rome. 14 of the girls were there for 14 months. The girls in Carlene for 14 months. I had some relatives there. I didn't know. I knew I had people there, but it was.
So what did you learn being in the center of Italy, studying opera, just absorbing the culture?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, it was the language itself was incredible. It's amazing how I picked up a lot of it. I think I spoke well. I think my pronunciation in singing it is very, very good. But at that point in time, I was really into the language and did well.
Of course.
Had some funny things happened. My mind is racing. So many things have happened. First thing in 1965, when I got shouldn't say dates. First year there, we went to the Rome Opera House. That was fantastic, right? 2 things I remember vividly. 3 things vividly. First one is Pavarotti sang Rigoletto. I was in the balcony. Now I believe that I am the first person to herald to the people in America that I knew of this person. I said to my friends,
"Wow!"
I said, "I just heard a tenor who sings like Björling." At that point, like Björling, the silver, clean, beautiful, high notes, bing, 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 bing. I said, "This guy's incredible." Second one was later in the season. He sang I Caporetti e Montecchi with Aragal, who was the big tenor.
Oh, wow.
He was the lead. Pavarotti played Tybalt. In that opera, the Bellini opera, Caporetti e Montecchi, Tybalt has 2 arias, but they're only really between like F and G. It didn't matter. Because Pavarotti sang with a legato and a line and a clarity. But Aragal had all the high notes, but it didn't much matter. Because Pavarotti was really it. The third story is really, really interesting because this really is. Gabriella Tucci was one of my favorites at that time. She was a very lovely woman on the stage, and she was sort of small to sing. I mean, small in the sense of size.
To make that sound.
Yeah, to make that sound. Because she was a lithe, very slender woman. She sang, I think she sang all 8 of the Aidas that season. 66, 67, whatever it was. And she was magnificent. But the tenors, oh my. One performance had 3 tenors.
That's not good.
One performance had 3 tenors. And by the 8th performance...
It's like a relay race.
Nobody could sing Rodriguez. So who comes out and sings it? The last performance, I never remember... I did remember his name. Giuseppe Campora. Campora made records. He sang Bohèmes. He sang Butterflies. He ended up in Connecticut teaching, I think. I met him later on, many years later, in Connecticut. And I actually met him at Rocky Aoki's house, one of Silipini's things. I forget what, Teaneck or something. And Campora comes out, never sang on Rodriguez before. And he made it. And I'll never forget, he comes out for the curtain, came out for the curtain.
It's a scary one.
Came out for the curtain call, and I swear... Now, we have 32 teeth, a normal person. I swear that he had 68 teeth because he smiled like a pumpkin, like this. I sang Rodriguez. It was magnificent. Anyway, it was really funny.
People crash and burn on that one all the time. You see it all the time.
And yet, Caruso says in one of his books that he learned to sing by singing Rodriguez. Because what happened was he was having trouble. He was in St. Petersburg, hired to sing Rodriguez. He was having trouble with everything, B-flats, everything. And this person, I don't know, Battistini, I don't think it was Battistini, because he was singing with Battistini, but that was some other baritone, some other friend of his, colleague, said, "Enrico, I want you to put your head against the wall. put your head against the wall and sing the B flat with your head against the wall. And he said that taught him. Because what it did was, technically, it lowered his jaw and unintentionally lowered his larynx. Larynx. Lowered his but the most mispronounced word probably in the singer's lexicon. Larynx, not larynx. Larynx.
I've heard a lot of different...
Yeah, larynx.
We had a laryngologist on the show a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Larynx, Larynx, whatever it is. Anyway, so he had his head. So what it does is naturally lowers the larynx, and Caruso from that point on had the most magnificent B flats of all time. Fantastic. So Rome was fantastic. I learned a language. I met many friends. I met relatives, and there's no city in the world like La Città Eterna, the eternal city. It's incredible. The remember that Jeremy Blossom, wasn't Jeremy here?
Oh sure,
right.
Jeremy Blasi, yeah.
Blasi. Jeremy said to me one time. He said he went to Rome. I forget why he went. Maybe it was just vacation. He was born in Hawaii, so he's been around the world.
Actually, born in Guam and grew up.
Born in Guam, grew up in Hawaii. So he was in one of the most beautiful places in the world. Hawaii is
spectacular. I taught there 2 years ago.
There you go. See, oh God, I sang there for a 28-day period. That was the most magnificent period of my life. It was so lush.
I wake up every morning. It doesn't look real.
I know.
Oh.
How about when you get off the plane?
It's like a movie set.
And you smell. It smells like, oh my God, it smells different. It's so beautiful. But anyway, Jeremy told me that when he went to Rome and he stepped on by the catacombs, down the street is the Colosseum, where the catacombs where St. Peter was. He said he literally felt the ground. He said, my life changed. Jeremy said that. He said, I could feel. He said, I could feel. And I think that truly, if one is sensitive to things like that I think is true. There's over 2,000 years of history there. And every inch of the place is just... Paris
for music.
Yeah,
even more so because Italian opera started in Italy, and it's like Sacra Terra.
Absolutely. And now, of course, Carlene loves Paris, and you can't go wrong with Paris.
Go wrong with Paris.
Paris is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But Paris is probably more beautiful than Rome in many ways. But I remember the last time I was in Rome. The whole family was there. It was some years ago. We took everybody, my mother and father, my brother, all my children, all my grandchildren. We all went.
Wow.
And it was magnificent. We took a last day in Rome. We spent 4 days in Rome, 4 days in my mother's hometown, Spinete, which is in below Rome, above Naples. We spent 4 days there. Went to Naples too. But in Rome, the last day, I'll never forget this. I said, Mom and Dad were in Spinete already. The rest of the family, back in Joe and all the kids, we're going to take a tour. Rent a bus, and we're going to take a tour. This is the best way. Last day, we'll see everything. We'll take a 6-hour tour. And we got this guy who was so funny and so wonderful. Here's what he says. He goes, the first line, never forget it. He says, "Welcome to Rome, the world's largest open-air museum." The world's largest open-air museum.
I love it.
Isn't it great?
And
then we had a wonderful tour. We had just a great tour. That's really great.
I was conducting in Nardini, which is in the hills of Umbria. And Quentin, my son, he came with me for his graduation. I took him along with me, and he was doing video work. And he got to go to Rome, and I never got to go. I had to work. I was doing 13 hours of coaching and working with the orchestra and this and that. But he got to go.
They call it...
So you have to go to Rome.
They call it Green Umbria, because... I sang at Spoleto, the Spoleto Festival with Giancarlo Menotti. I did L'Ormindo of Cavalli. And they call Umbria is the only province in Italy that has no water around it. That's why they call it Green Umbria. But of course, there's Perugia, there's Assisi,
it's gorgeous.
All this stuff, right? You're not Todi.
You wake up we're in the mountain looking down. Everything's from the 1100s to the 1300s.
Yeah. We had a funny thing happen. We were in Umbria, in Spoleto. One day we were going to go, Perugia, to see the Perugina candy factory in Perugia. And we were on the train, and the day before, John McEnroe had won Wimbledon. I was a big McEnroe fan.
Okay.
So I had the Corriere dello Sport, I'm reading like this, and we're on the train, Carlene, my mother-in-law, her mom, and Melissa. Melissa was with us, and Melissa was 13 years old. They would sing, what was the song they sang, Carlene? You are my sunshine, right? You are my sun. They were, you are my sunshine, my only sun. They were harmonized. You are my sun, you are my sun. And they were harmonized. And so they had a great time. We're on the train, and we're going to Perugia. And I'm reading about Mackerel and Corriere dello Sport. I was saying, oh, what a great thing. They played great. And we go, all of a sudden we realize we're going the wrong way. So we get off at let's see, what was it called? Todino, what's it called, Granny? What? Gualdo Torino. What? Gualdo Totino. And it was this little town, literally, that the train stop was there. And then it was country. And we had to wait for like about 2 hours. So what did I do? Well, we'll go have lunch. We walked into the town. And we bought some bread and some cheese. And at the bar that we went to, wine is poured. This guy had like beer, like beer, the thing with just beer, like a beer thing, was wine. What's it called? The keg, like a keg. It was a keg of wine. It was fantastic. I went back the other way, so we're good. It was a great day.
Well, I'll tell you, there's nothing like being in Europe as a singer, a musician. You have to go and connect, learn the languages, to be there, just to experience it.
Right.
So when you come back, what did you do when you came back?
Very interesting. Italy was tough to break into, and I was still I didn't feel comfortable either technically or vocally. Very comfortable. I think I went to Germany on an audition tour. I got offered a contract at Saarbrücken. Considered it, but I had something inside me that said, I don't want to sing in Germany. Now, Germany at that time had like 70 state-run operas, perhaps more. So I definitely could have started in the house. I'm pretty sure. Would have been a good path. Ferguson did that. Mr. Ferguson did that. I could have done that. I just felt unfinished, even though I probably underestimated myself at that point in time. Most of the time I overestimated myself. I think I might have underestimated. Anyway, I applied for, and I had a family too, so I had to think of that too. I didn't want them to suffer with me in a German house making $10 a night, Anyway, that would have been tough. But it might have been interesting too. Who knows? We'll never know. But so I applied for college positions. Now, Indiana had a placement bureau. So I wrote to Indiana, and they helped me. I had 3 or 4 or 5 different places. One was in Massachusetts, famous, Amherst, Massachusetts. Another place in the South, and then there was Memphis State University. And I had a connection there. I didn't know it at the point, but the connection was that George Osborne, who was a colleague at IU, sang Bel Core when I sang Nemorino. His wife was Adina, so the three of us. He was at Memphis State University. He was a general factotum. He was the conductor, the stage director, the singer. He did everything, right? He started an opera company, and he wanted me to be there. I said, Carnine, this sounds pretty darn good. What do you think? She said, well, it's a way we can survive and you can continue your career. So I was hired as sight unseen, never auditioned, never sent a tape, anything, on George's recommendation, as an assistant professor and resident artist. Sounded good. A lot of money. No, not a lot of money at all. But it was enough to make a living.
Sure.
So Carney and I had nothing, basically, and we applied for our first car because we had to go 1,200 miles to Memphis. So the head of the bank was Mr. Backer, and he was the father of one of my schoolmates at Bound Brook, graduate. So he said, what is your collateral? I said, well, 2 children, a wife.
I've said that many times. Red-headed children is my...
I had a red-headed wife at that point. So red-headed wife, 2 children, 2 little children, and well, I have a job. He said, okay, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to give you a car loan. So we bought our first car. It was a 1967 Mercury Cougar. 3 shift on the floor, 291 horsepower, little car. Little 290 V8 engine.
Wow.
V8 engine. It's V8 engine. It was as big as it's a little car. Anyway, so we made our first trip to Memphis to get housing. Funny stories abound. On the way to Memphis, first thing was there's no speed limit in certain places.
The Autobahn.
I said, hey, let's see if I can get 100. So I hit 100. That was fun. Now, we get to Nashville, Tennessee, 200 miles from Memphis. The hit song of that day was Billy Joe McAllister's Tallahatchie Bridge. Billy Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge, right? Big song. Bobby Gentry. Big song. Man, she's singing away. And the station comes on, and honest to God up in heaven, it went like this. Carlene and I looked at each other. Are we in a foreign country? We did not understand one word the person. We looked at each other. We started laughing. 85 miles an hour. We're like, oh my God, what are we into? We get into Memphis. Now, in my day, as an older person, in my youth, only Cadillacs and Lincolns had air conditioning in their car.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Our Cougar had no air conditioning. We got to Memphis. This is August, beginning of August. So school started in September. August. It was 97 degrees temperature, 105 degrees humidity. You could not breathe. Tissue paper. And so we see all these cars in Memphis had their windows up. And we're saying, holy mackerel, it's not only Cadillacs and Lincolns, every car's up. That's what we should do, put our window. They all had air conditioning. We didn't know it. Everybody in Memphis had air conditioning. We didn't know.
Wow.
Look, our cars didn't have that. The normal cars, only Cadillacs and Lincoln. So we obviously sweated it more. But that was one of our first stories, and that was a wonderful experience.
Now, you taught for how many years down in Memphis?
I taught for 6.5 years.
Oh, you're there a long time.
I got
I didn't
tenure.
realize you were there that long.
I got tenure. I won the Metropolitan Opera auditions of the South, Mid-South. I went to on the stage of the Met.
We'll get back there again.
Yeah.
What was it like to be the first time on that stage?
It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. Actually, it didn't make as big an impression on me that time as later on, believe it or not.
Okay.
It was very strange, because I don't know, I guess being young and stupid, I just sang. I don't know.
What did you sing on the stage?
I sang Lamento di Federico.
Oh.
And I
Hey,
think
yeah.
It's funny because I always thought it was what it was, but anyway, that's another story. So I did that. I won the Mid-South auditions. I sang 8 or 10 operas. You know, I was the leading tenor. But the point had come where I felt I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm staying here. New York is where to be. You got to be there. So I found an agent. It was Ruth Welting was from Memphis. Actually, believe it or not, I gave her some lessons. I mean, my teaching ability was more of a, trial and error, and I had some good students. I did well with a couple of them. Ruthie took a couple lessons. She was a wonderful. She sang. In fact, I stage directed twice in my life. I think the first time was Hansel and Gretel, and she was Gretel, but her voice was so small that we actually had to put a microphone on her. Yeah, but she was wonderful. Great singer. And she had an age, and she made a big splash. After this, she went, did this, did that. She had F's above high C. They loved her. And she had a great agent. And I went to New York. She recommended me. I had him. He said, I'm going to get you a lot of work. No, he didn't. But anyway.
They listen,
yeah. So I came to New York, but I was right away, I was successful auditioning. I got a Macbeth with New York Lyric Opera, Tom Booth conducting, wonderful cast. I got a Bronx Opera Magic Flute.
I'm friendly with him.
With Tom?
Bronx Opera.
That's, Spearman. Spearman.
Michael Spearman. Every year I do the Lincoln Center Messiah sing. I always sit next to him, and he wants to talk to me the whole night long.
Now, Michael Spearman.
We have so much fun.
Michael Spearman, right. But he was a Bronx Opera.
Yeah.
Okay, I get him mixed up with
He's
Michael.
still there.
Yes.
He wears that
and his
Giants
son,
jacket.
His son, too.
His son's a stage director.
Yeah.
Very good, actually.
Yeah. But they're very Spearman was very nice to me. There was another Michael was, of course, Michael Feldman. Michael Feldman was the head of St. Luke's Chamber Ensemble.
I'm sure.
And that was another thing that I really did a lot of work for them. I did at least 14 operas with them, including 5 or 6 Haydn operas.
Those so rarely get done. They had a renaissance.
Oh,
and then they kind of
I did Stravinsky's Renard at Carnegie Hall.
That's
I did Fioravanti, whoever that is. Pet Shop of Rienzi. Some other modern word. Carnation. Bakst, B-A-K-S-T.
Heard the name. I don't
Bakst. Yeah, I did Red Carnation.
Wow.
So I did modern works. Haydn, Mozart. Fortunately, I did.
Aren't you glad you took that extra sight singing class?
Yes, that's right. I did over 200 performances with them, and I'll never forget one thing that was incredible. I was singing Lo Speziale, the pharmacy, the pharmacist, and it's Haydn, and it's written incredibly. Well, part of Sempione. It's written from a low C to a high C. Okay. And there's another part, Mengone, another time. I did his part too. So I did 2 parts. But this one series at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. It was in May, middle of May, and I had to get up. They had 2 performances. One at 10 o'clock in the morning, and one at 11:30. And there were 2,000 kids at each performance. I know. Singing high C's in the morning, right? Low C to high C. Runs. But it felt comfortable in my voice. But 2 things. I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get I didn't drive it. I took a bus into the city, then get to Brooklyn Academy. It was 95 degrees, and my costume weighed about 10 pounds.
Wool.
I had 10 performances in 5 days. I lost, I would say, 15 pounds. Just going 5 o'clock in the morning, come home.
Good for the bank account.
Yeah.
Not so good for the sanity.
No. I think I sang that season. I think I sang performances. That's that year, because of all the St. Luke's. I think I sang 80 performances that year.
Wow.
That's a lot of performances. A lot of performances.
Now, when did you? What was your? So 83 was your Met debut.
Yes. Now that was but that was later. It's funny. The Met the Met people heard me in one of the Feldman operas.
Of course.
Yeah, they heard me in one of the Feldman operas, and Richard who's the pianist? Great conductor, Richard Wojtak, right?
Wojtak, sure.
What a guy! He heard me and he recommended me. I get a call from another agent, not the first agent, another agent, who says they want you to do 12 weeks covering Tamino, covering Narabot, and something else. 3 things. I said, "You're kidding." I was like, "Oh my God, this is my dream of my lifetime." This is 1978. I'm going, "Oh my God, this is what my whole life this is what I aspired to do." Unfortunately, there was conflict because I had a contract with Charlotte Opera.
That's the way it goes, right?
I had just sung with them. I had sung the Steersman, with the biggest cast in the world. I mean, biggest physically. The Steuermann was 6'11", Noel Till. The Eric was O'Neill. He was 6'5". Richard Gill was the Dolland. He was 6'3". I'm what I am, normal height. The soprano was 5'1". Noel Till did the duet in the second act with Zenta on his knees, and he was as tall as she was. They sang a duet. He was on his knees. She was standing. They were the same height. Anyway, so I had sung Steuermann, and they loved me. They hired me for Così, Ferrando. Wonderful. But Steuermann was very easy. I love Ferrando. And I called him up and I said, "Listen, something's come up. It's not an ordinary something. It's the Metropolitan Opera." I said, "Oh, that's nice." I said, "Well, it interferes with the Ferrandos and the Cosís." "Oh, well, what do you mean?" "Well, it means that I really like to be at the Met, and I'd like to cancel the contract. Can we do that?" No. What do you mean, no? I said, "Oh, come on." Well, we haggled and haggled, and I had to buy my way out, but I didn't have to pay the full thing. The agent was significant, but to be at the Met. So I arrived at the Met. This is 1978. I was still taking the bus into the city, and again to show you how moved I was by being at the Met. I was coming. I didn't know they put covers in the on the roster because I thought the performers. But I was going into the Met, and I had a program, and I'm looking, and my name is on the roster, and I literally started crying. Because it was, for me, it was the culmination of what my dream was.
Of course.
You know, every American singer's dream is to be at the Metropolitan Opera. So I covered David Kubler at the Met in 78 and 79. Now we're both covered. I covered for 5 years. I went on one time for Robert Nagy and Hellenist in 1983. And then I did the tour, the Rosen Cavaliers. My roommate, by the way, on tour was Anthony Lachura.
Oh, wow.
May I tell you an interesting story about Anthony?
What a career! What a second career he's had.
Oh, let me tell you. We had the fun.
He's wonderful.
Oh, we did so many things. We're roommates for 8 cities. Wow. We had the greatest time. It was his debut season, and we talked and talked and talked. Background, everything. We knew everything about each other. It was fantastic. Well, many years go by, and we sang many operas together. We remained friends through the years, and Boardwalk Empire comes on, HBO. And
he was fantastic.
Yeah, well, I didn't know. I mean, I found out from friends. Oh, and we didn't have HBO. And I said, geez, you know, Carney, I wish we had HBO. Well, sure enough, we got a trial subscription to HBO. And I said, Carney, maybe he'll be on the show. First time. Oh my God, Carney. It was the best episode he ever did. It was the last one. He was on, and he had a great part. He had talked to the FBI. He did this, that. And he does this. He polishes the guy's shoes. He takes his tie out, and then he commits suicide. And I said, "Oh my God, Carney! We watched one show. He's unbelievable, and he kills himself." So I called Tony, and he was in the car, and I said, "Tony, I waited for 3 years to see you on HBO, to see Boardwalk Empire, to see you were phenomenal, and you kill yourself." And he said he was off the road. He said, so it was a wonderful story. He's a great, great guy. God. So I was at the Met till 83. 84, 6 seasons. I went on for Hellenist, Nagy, and the tour. That's it. Covered, but did nothing. And the Met let me go. But I have to say that in many ways, as old as I was, even though I wasn't old, I'm still a young, very young tenor, there were things that I didn't understand. And I will say this to young singers now. The main thing a young singer can be is totally prepared. That may mean that they have to spend hours and hours and hours on the notes and the words. They have to know everything so well that someone could tap you in the middle of the night in your sleep and you'd sing the role. You have to be that prepared. I did not truly understand that until my second stint at the Met in 93, where it finally dawned on me that you have to just, I was so quick. I could learn things so quickly, forget them just as quickly also, but learn quickly, and I didn't really spend as much time as I should. That's one of the regrets, you could say, that if I had, that would be what I do. I would prepare. Like now, I prepare.
Oh, you're
that's
always prepared for everything.
That's what I'm doing. But before that, I would say to young singers, please, do more than you think you have to do. Do more, because it's worth it. It's just worth it. You'll feel more comfortable. You know,
especially opera, where anything can go wrong at any moment. There's so many variables beyond everyone's control with a set piece or a costume piece that you have to know everything in your subconscious, not just in your conscious. Exactly. It's not a concert. It's not an oratorio with a score in your hand.
No, you have to just know it so well. You know, it's remarkable how when you know it well, you can go off 1 second and you can go right back to where you were, and you're in it. You know, I have to tell you a wonderful story though that shows you how things go. Denis Massé is the French coach at the Met. We have wonderful head coaches. Irina Spiegelman. Spiegelman was the German coach. We had an incredible relationship. She was the most wonderful human being, and the German. She helped me so, and of course Denise in French, and Nico Castel and every other language in the world. There was also a Czech coach who was phenomenal. I can't think of her name right now. She was fabulous. But I was doing Carmelites, Dialogue of the Carmelites, and the captain. It's a nice role. It has about 10 or 12 lines in the middle, mostly with the Mother Superior. And I was doing it. Stephanie Blythe was doing it. Wonderful woman. Mark spoke about her too. She's a force of nature. And a certain point came to boom, 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 boom. I'm singing French. She's singing French. She's looking at me. All of a sudden, we looked at each other. Nothing happened. Now, on stage, when something stops, it can be a second, but it seems like about
an hour,
3 minutes. Right. And it was one of those three-minute things that was really probably 8 seconds, right? Or not that long even, 5 seconds. But it seemed like an hour. And Stephanie looks at me, I look at her. So finally Stephanie turns and says her line. Walked off the stage. Never realized anything. Next performance, Denise Massey comes backstage. Now, you know at the Met, when you miss something, people tell you immediately, correct it, do this. They told me that I missed it. Oh my God, geez, I'm going to get reamed out. That's so terrible to miss a line. Like, I missed a real empty space. So Denise Massey comes back, and I thought I was going to get really, yelled at. She goes, Ronald, she said, you sound wonderful. But this time, do the part without the cut. Do the part without the cut. But what a nice way to do it. She was so sweet. God, that's so nice. That's very understanding. Thank God.
You must have seen a lot of memory slips in your day from colleagues being in the theater. It happens all the time. There's so much to remember and so much blocking. And
exactly. There's so many things. I remember, not so much remembering, but things that I have to do. I was doing the Lady Macbeth of Metsensk, Shostakovich. And the part I had was the village idiots, I think, or the shabby peasant. They had different names for it, in English. Shabby peasant, I think, is closer to what it is. There's an aria in there that is, how the fool in Boris Godunov, he's dumb. I mean, he's a fool, but he speaks words of wisdom.
Right, they always place that there.
Yeah, and the Russians love that. The shabby peasant was a shabby, a bum, basically. But the aria was like prophetic. It was like, and it was so difficult. And I worked with Elena Kurdina, the Russian coach, over and over, and I knew it so well. And I could sing the snot out of it. Pardon my language. Nora Rosenberg thought I was fantastic. She cast me for that. She thought, you'd be fantastic. An unnamed stage director, world famous. I shall not name him. Everyone could find out if they want to. Don't find out, guys. Just take my word for it, okay? This is a great story. So we go to rehearsal, and of course it's in one of the big rooms, orchestra room, or the other rehearsal room, big room downstairs. And it's on stage, and they're trying to describe the set to us, but the set isn't there. It's on the stage. And the stage director says, it's good. He says, very good. He said, do more diction. He doesn't even speak Russian, but he's telling me. I'm sure. No, I'll take it. At this point in time, I'm humble. Believe me. When you're at the Met, be humble. Of course. Because there are artists who are so fantastic. And everyone is trained in what they do, and they're phenomenal. So I'm totally respectful of what... I know he doesn't speak Russian, but he has Russian. I'll work on my Russian even more. I'll do it better. Sure. So I took it with a grain of salt, did it. Get to the stage. Are you ready for this? My part, the aria, begins on a wall 20 feet high. I'm not joking. I will not be exaggerating. This is the truth. Meantime, I'm singing this aria. 20 feet high wall. A rope comes down. I swing on the rope. Wait, I'm singing. Onto a car. A used car. I jump off the car. Tumble 3 times. Go over to the other side of the stage. Open the trunk. Look into the trunk. Close the trunk. Go into the window of the car. and finish the aria. Gergiev's conducting, right?
Jeez.
I'm dealing with this in the first rehearsal. This is not explained to me at all. I cannot do the aria. I cannot breathe. The ending is where the B flat comes. The B flats at the end. On Russian vowels, E's and stuff, which I could do, but I not running marathon, tumbling or jumping or coming off it. So I couldn't do it. So I come off stage and I'm just out of it. He says to me, "How come you couldn't get in the car?" I said, "I couldn't fit in the window." He said, "You could fit in the window." I said, "I'll show you." He takes me backstage, goes into the window, and gets stuck in the window.
Oh, it's terrible.
And all stage hands were there too. But in any case, I could not do it. And Gergiev wanted me to do it anyway. But he didn't. He was like, I embarrassed him so badly. But he embarrassed himself, quite frankly. But I embarrassed him. I asked him to just show me how to do it. He went, okay. So we've never spoken since, obviously. But so I was taken off the roll. Lenore came backstage, Rosenberg, and she said, "I am so sorry. I know you sing this part, the best that can ever be sung. You would be world famous. This is the part that was written for your voice. It's perfect. It's like Heinz Sendik. You don't know. He's recorded like all these roles. He's a high tenor, piercing. He does Moses and Aaron, stuff like that, and he's got this. So I was that kind of sound for this role. In the nose too, I had the same kind of thing, that kind of role. But anyway, but she said, "You know what? We're paying you full fee," and I'm telling you, that was the highest fee I ever got at the Met. I mean, per performance. No. That was the highest fee I ever got. But I got paid for it. But Bernie Fritz comes backstage and said, "Listen, Ron, it happens to everybody here." He says, "This thing is just don't even think about it. It's just the way it happens." It was very sad for me. Very sad.
Of course.
Because
I really want to get to that
point.
And
Yelena, we coach so much. Oh my God, you sang it so beautifully, so great.
Have you done it again somewhere else?
No.
It doesn't get performed much in the States.
No.
The other Marinsky.
It's a brutal opera, but it's magnificent.
It's one of the hardest.
Yeah, and the guy who did it was not vocally as I shouldn't say that. He was very good. He could handle it. The acrobatics. I couldn't handle it. I literally was out of breath. By the time I got in the car and tumbled,
a lot of people. It's always that balance with the stage directors. Like a great stage conductor can make the production so much better.
Well, he wanted something.
And someone who's not as good can get in the way.
But he's world famous. I'm sure he. You know what it should be. It's like Broadway. That becomes Broadway. That's great. I'm taught to sing. I mean, this is my feeling. I mean, I know today's singers are more versatile, perhaps, than the older singers. They can move, dance better, perhaps. But sometimes dancing, if you're dancing during an aria, it's distracting. I'm sorry. I don't know. I mean, you have to honor what the composer wrote too. If you have an aria, it does stop the show. But if you have an aria and you're running around from the ceiling or tumbling, uno fortivo lagrima and you're doing tumbles, or you're...
The whole purpose of the aria is musically is it stops that moment and it encapsulates that moment. It's kind of like a parenthetical aside. It kind of stops time.
Exactly.
Right?
And someone told me once, they said the greatest art is in that aria to make people believe for 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes that you're totally expressing something. That and just be still. To be still. But some stage directors don't believe in stillness.
No. The opera's about the motion.
The motion, yeah. Spectacular.
Every diva has to lay down and sing the high C.
Well, I remember that Neil Shikoff was debuting his Trovatore, the Manrico, and he was having, thinking about it. That's a tough role, obviously, and the stage director had him do something that was so ludicrous that Volpe was the manager then. Yeah. He just took it right down. He literally took it down. He said, no. I'm not even going to say what happened, but he just said, no, and you just sing it. Don't do this,
You go for get the high C out. That's the most important thing, right, in that show.
Oh, my God. Anyway.
So past that, so what are some of the big moments in your Met career? Some of the big performances?
Well, the biggest one was it was interesting. I re-debuted as Arturo in Lucia, with the great soprano. What's her name? Mariella De Villa. You know De Villa?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What a singer. Jerry Hadley, the late great.
Oh.
Jerry Hadley was the tenor. He was magnificent. And coincidentally, later on, when I did Lucia, I was able to do with Leo Nucci was the baritone. I'll tell a story about Leo later, if we have time. Anyway, Mariella De Villa, and I was Arturo, and I sang all the performances in the park and the house. And I had my contracts the next year were all covers, and I didn't understand because I sang. I got one time Nello Santi said to me after I sang the Arturo, he said, "You should be singing in canto," which is very, very nice of him to say. It was very nice. But I was covering. So I was covering Metropolis, which was in English the first time. No. Was it? I think it was, no. It was in Czech. First time in Czech. And I was covering Richard Versailles. Richard was a Korean veteran. No, he was a Vietnam veteran. And somehow he was in the Navy. This is pertinent because I was covering him, and Christmas Eve, day after Christmas, he wasn't coming back till the afternoon for rehearsal. So I had the morning rehearsal. The stage director, again nameless, you always can find out, I'm not going to say it, had the part with Vitek, who was a clerk. And the first line he says, "Oh God, I'm doing things here," and he has him on a ladder.
Oh, I read the story.
Yeah, it's a famous story. And the ladder was not like a ladder should be, which is like this. The ladder was straight up and down. The character Vitek had to climb the ladder and sing. Now, this is the first rehearsal on stage. No one had seen the ladder in rehearsal yet. I said, and I swear on the Bible, I said to the stage director, I said to the stage manager, I said to the stage conductor, I said to my colleagues, I said, "This is dangerous. The ladder is like this." I said, "It should be angled. It's this, you can fall easily." I'll do it. So I did the rehearsal. Richard comes in the afternoon. I said to Richard, "Richard, the ladder is not what you think. It's going to be straight up and down." He said, "Oh, I was in the Navy. That's why I had ladders." I said, "Okay, that's good. You're comfortable." So I covered him. Opening night, I arrived in my locker at 4:00 for this 7:30 curtain, and Richard's like 10 lockers down from me. And my back had gone out. It used to happen sometimes. Just an ache in my back. I was like aching. I was like hurting. I said, "I'm cool. How you feeling?" He goes, "Great." I said, "I have a great show. My back is out, so I'm sure glad you're feeling well." So I went to a dressing room. There's a very small cast. Sometimes you can't get a dressing room. So I was in the artist dressing area in a room on the left-hand side. And Richard goes out. We're the first character. And he says, what's the word? You only live once. Something like that. You only live once in Czech. I can't remember the exact words. And I hear a noise. And I knew inside of myself that he fell. I knew he fell. I ran. I said, "He fell, didn't he?" And they're all screaming. People are screaming and yelling, and So they put me in costume, but the show was canceled. I come home at 9:00. Carney goes, "What happened?" He said, "Were you watching TV or whatever? You saw Death at the Opera or something, right? On TV?"
I saw the news.
The news said Death at the Opera. I said, "Yeah, he fell." And of course, the story was he had a heart attack, right?
Oh boy.
But that's the way it was. So what happened was that show was canceled. So everyone's sad. The next show was Tuesday. This is a Friday night. Tuesday next show. We come in on Sunday afternoon to a hotel because they predicted a snowstorm. And sure enough, it was a 26-inch snowstorm.
Great.
Check it out. People who lived in New Jersey could not get into New York. So the Metropolitan Opera had its second cancellation. First was Leonard Warren when he died. Second one was when this guy died on stage. The third one was when the third show of Metropolis, 2 of the 3.
Wow.
So meantime, we're in the rehearsal starts on Wednesday, and for the next show is a Thursday. Maybe the show was Monday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Thursday, Monday, whatever. So the next show is Thursday. So I sing the orchestra rehearsal Wednesday. Lenore says to me, "You sound beautiful." I said, "Well, it's a very sad occasion." I said, "But thank you." And that really basically jump started my thing, really, because from then on, I did like 40 performances a year. I mean, covered and did 40 performances a year for like 20 years. So
it's incredible length of time.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
And while you were doing that, you were also singing guests.
Yes, I was. Yes.
Other companies,
right.
like Arena di Verona. What was it like to go back to Italy?
Italy was fantastic. That was. I'm glad you asked about that because I went back to Italy, and I was hired to sing Alma Viva in Barbiere di Siviglia.
What a great role!
Yeah, a great role. I always loved it. One of my favorite roles, and in the Teatro Filarmonico, not in the Arena, in the theater, which is a beautiful theater. All the theaters in Italy are beautiful. And I get there rehearsal, and they're introducing me to the cast. And I got there early, and they said Leo Nucci is coming to sing Figaro, and he was already famous, world famous. I said, Leo Nucci, wow, you can come late. He's the star. You can come the day before. I know he knows the part. He's going to be fine. So he comes about like 6 days before. He was a great colleague, and he's going to come. Maybe not the day of the first rehearsal, but by the 4th or 5th, he's there. So he comes in, and Leo was introduced to the cast, and he says, and Ronald Naldi from America. He goes, Naldi. He goes, my mother is a Naldi. My madre is Naldi. And he, oh my God, he goes, call your father. So in Italian, he said, call your father. So sure enough, it is unbelievable. His mother and my father are direct first cousins. My grandfather and his mother's grandmother were brother and sister. So we're second cousins. We are the same age. And we've never met each other. Never knew. The Naldi married Nucci, but he's a Naldi. So I called my father, and sure enough, the sisters and brothers, many sisters and brothers. My grandfather Giulio was his grandmother's Matilda, whatever her name was. There was so many people, Mafalda, and sure enough, we're second. And so we had a chance to sing a couple times at the Met in Lucia, and most interestingly in Vespri Siciliani. Another terrific story. Leo, of course, has sung every Verdi role. So we have Chastain is the conductor. Very good, Frederick Chastain, French conductor, singing Vespri Siciliani. Very seldom. Radvanovsky, that was her first big star. She knocked that's when people went crazy. They literally went crazy. And Casanova was the tenor. He recently died, by the way.
He did. He's a good friend.
Oh, he was a nice.
We were friends of friends. Yeah, we're friends.
Was he the nicest person in the world? Oh, he was such a wonderful person. Anyway, so Radvanovsky was fabulous. Nucci was, of course, himself. And I had a nice little part. Nice part. I sang a trio with Sam Raimi and Radvanovsky. And I just heard it the other day on the radio. And I'm so proud because just the three of us, and my voice is, some big flats. It sounds great. So I was proud of that. But we had in the beginning a sextet. A cappella sextet. A cappella sextet. Leo knows everybody. He said, he goes, yeah, we cut that most of the time. We cut that. And I was nervous. Leo! I said, Leo! I only have 38 lines. I said, can I sing the sextet? Please let me sing the sextet. He goes, the stage here we sing the sextet. Isn't that great? And the other day I heard it say, it's beautiful. If you have a chance to hear the first act sextet, Radvanovsky and Jane Bonnell, I think, and Raimi and Nucci and myself and a couple of other person. It's spectacular. But I said, no, you let me sing it. Let me sing the sextet. So this wonderful memories. Yeah.
So who were some of the if you had to say, give me a couple of the most amazing performances you've been a part of, things that you knew you were part of something really special on the stage.
Well, certainly Pavarotti, right? I mean, Pavarotti's...
what was he like as a colleague, as a person?
He was very reserved. Very reserved. I was not in La Lisière, but of course I went to rehearsals at La Lisière with Nucci and he. And he's very reserved. They introduced me to my mother and father. Leo, this is Mr. and Mrs. Naldi, because I sang with him in Aida and stuff, and he says, and he was in the corner, and he was like, he didn't directly even talk to my mother and father. He talked to Leo. It was like he was an interpreter, and I think he was very reserved. He was very concerned about his weight. His knees were really bothering him, so he was very reserved. So I found that to be, that's the way he was, and I told him the first time I heard him in Rigoletto, how much I knew he was another Björling, but he just shrugged and said grazie, But he was a very inward person, believe it or not. As much as he was open in the shows you saw the public, he was very much of a...
Isn't it amazing how the cultural impact he had? I teach a music and civ course at the college, and I was just teaching about the voice parts, and I played them in Pavarotti, of course, and we said, Mike, now he was so famous. He was one of the most famous people in the world at the time. He was like up there with Michael Jackson, like his like image and his like his hanky and all the stuff he did.
You say Pavarotti, it's opera. It's what it is. Right?
It's more than opera. He transcended opera. It became like a cultural phenomenon.
He was the crucible of our time. But you know what? It's so funny because I remember that after I had seen him in Rigoletto and in Caporetti Montecchi in Rome, next time I heard him was in Memphis. I remember they did the tours. They came to Memphis as an audience member, as a faculty member at Memphis State University, resident artist in the back, and he sang "Daughter of the Regiment."
Oh, before the Met. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he had gained. See, I had seen him in the beginning. He was a strong,
sturdy,
but not at all heavy. When I saw him, I was like someone blew him up. But the high C's. It's not only the high C's, the sound of his voice. I mean, if not only high C's is one thing, but the legato and the diction and the clarity. And it's so funny because one of my colleagues was Ethel Maxwell next door to me. And in that series at Memphis, by the way, Memphis, one season I heard Corelli, Tucker, Corelli in Romeo and Juliet, Tucker in Forza, and Gedda in Carmen. 3 nights. I mean, yeah, back to that, tenors. Now this time it was Pavarotti in Daughter of the Regiment, and it was Domingo in Bohème. And I said to Ethel Maxwell, "Did you ever hear anything like Pavarotti? Did you ever hear anything like that? Isn't that incredible?" And she says, "Well, I prefer Domingo." And I went, "Really? Why?" She said, "Well, because I don't really love Pavarotti's. I like Domingo's sound." And it's so funny how things have played out. It is funny because, Pavarotti was the most unique sound we ever heard. But Domingo was an incredible, the
number of roles he's sung, the things he's done,
the consistency, the color of the voice, the power of the voice, the personality on stage. He's pretty much unique. Think about it.
Oh,
I've never been able to quite like it. I mean, his career is basically, in the roles he sang in a number of performances, is basically 5 people would have a career. 5 people could just
who holds the most roles?
It's got to be him.
Okay, so one
I would think so.
I mean,
no. I knew Renato Capecchi. Remember that?
Yeah.
Renato Capecchi told me. He was my stage director for Così fan tutte in Connecticut. So he also sang Don Alonso. Don Alonso. Yeah, and he was wonderful. He told me he had 266 roles.
I've read 280 somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, it's something like. But I mean, some of the operas he had like 6 roles. You sang different times within the same opera.
Pretty amazing. But Pavarotti only had
50, whatever that.
Much less. Yeah.
And Björling.
And he was known for 8 great ones.
Exactly. Yeah. So Jimmy sang a lot of roles, but I don't think it's the amount of roles what you do. But I have to say that Domingo's output is absolutely astonishing. And the quality of it is astonishing. I mean,
his stage acting too.
Everything.
I grew up watching him at the Met. Like I was, when I was in college, I was a student teaching. I would go every night and standing room in the Met, and I would just go back there. I saw you multiple times before I knew who you were, and I was standing back there, and I learned that after Act 1, everyone leaves. I can just go down and start going closer and closer as each act goes. Right. I paid $10 for standing room tickets. I learned so much watching those singers.
Absolutely.
What advice do you have for young singers just breaking into the business? You've had a career, 25 years at the Metropolitan Opera, something like that?
Probably 30, actually.
I mean, there's very few people who can say that.
Yeah. Well, persistence is one of the things. Focus. Learn early how to take care of your instrument. Very important. Know your limitations. Don't limit yourself, but know your limitations.
Must be so hard for a young singer to find
very hard,
because you don't get to there unless you've got fire and
I don't like categorizing in the sense of saying you can't sing Radames, where a guy says, but I can. I've sung it. I can. I think he might know best. You have to know yourself. Maybe that's the essence of knowing yourself. But there's a lot of other things involved too. You have to have incredible self-discipline. You have to have focus. You have to have fortitude, courage. Caruso used to say, they heard him in the dressing room yelling before a performance. And finally someone said, what are you doing? He said, I'm telling the devil to go to hell. Get away.
Whoa.
Get away from me, demon. Get away from me.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever have you ever suffered stage fright?
I would say always, but I control it by breathing, prayer, meditation. You could. But I like Caruso's thing. I mean, just get away from it. Yeah,
makes sense because
think about it.
Every time you get out
right,
there,
it's gripped by fear. You say, okay, let go.
What do the Italians say?
It's a
in bocca al lupo, into the mouth of the wolf, right? Isn't that the most
exactly? Because you need courage. You need courage. Well, George Carlin said something else. He said, let's see what did he say. How did he say it? When you succeed, you kill the audience. When you fail, they kill you.
They kill you.
Right? That. I mean, right? I mean, isn't that right? So you really have to have courage, trust. Be within yourself. I think that's very important, to be within yourself. Don't go outside of yourself. Don't try to do, don't force especially the voice, this instrument that you can't see, you can't feel. It's all imagery and sensation and thought. The mind is everything. The mind is everything.
We have our first question from the audience. Sure. This is from Daniel from Delaware. Mm-hmm. What's the hardest role you've ever sung and why?
Hardest role? Look at my rolls.
This is Stump the Tenor.
It's funny because I don't think I've done a role that is beyond me, and by the fact that that the repetition and learning of it very, very well, I was able to do almost every role. I think the problem would be not the difficulty, but I think Rigoletto would be the Duke. The Duke would be to me because
it's a tough
it's
combination
exposed.
Of power and
yes,
it's
exposed. It's exposed, and I always feared that role the most. Yes, I would say the Duke, no doubt. But I think that again, that when you learn the role over and over and it becomes a part of you, you don't go beyond yourself. You know exactly what you have to do. That's what I'm talking about, preparation. Preparation is everything.
Knowing your vocal limits and knowing how you feel that day.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of tenors get into trouble with the Duke. As a conductor, I can feel when a tenor's having issues.
Right?
I can tell by their and I don't hold the high notes as long. I watch for the breaths.
Right. I remember one time in Modena. I was in Modena to hear Nucci sing Rigoletto. And his wife sang also with him, Adriana Anelli. So he sang 8 of them in a row, and I think 8 in about 12 days, right? And every night he encored the Cortigiani. Every single night.
Wow.
Every night. But the night I heard it, the tenor's name, and I think he did the run, was a guy called Cazzaniga. What a name, Cazzaniga. I can't remember his first name. He starts off questo quella, and he cracks on questo quella.
Yeah, it's a long night.
And the audience literally made an animal sound. They went.
Oh boy.
I mean, and that was it. That's all he needed. I don't know how he got through the night because it was. I felt so sorry for him, but the audience literally turned on him and made animal sounds. And I'll tell you another night that happened was very interesting too. And again, it had to do with Nucci. Carlene was with me on this night. The guy, Giuseppe was the tenor you just said. Giacomini, Cecilia Gazdia, and Nucci sang a concert with orchestra, trio. What power, right? This is in the famous place where Verdi was born. Where's Verdi? Where's Verdi? What's the famous?
B. Bresch.
Darn it! The famous place where
that's
the heart of the Torino, not Torino. No.
Nope.
And it doesn't matter. It was the famous place. I'll think of it as we go along. So they're singing a trio. I was singing three of them singing arias and duets and trios. And first thing happens is they're singing the Trovatore beginning. B flat. Giacomini literally breaks in half. It happens.
He does.
It happens. Next thing you know, we have an announcement. Honest to God truth. Signor
Giacomini.
Signor Giacomini non può cantare più. Mi dispiace. He goes, oh. Again, the animal noise was, oh, the disappointment and the hate. It was terrible. So it goes a little further, and first half ends. Second announcement: Gazdia is pregnant, so she can't sing any further. she can't go on. So we're left with Nucci, and the orchestra leaves. They roll out of a piano, upright piano. Nucci sings 15 songs in earnest.
Well, they doubled his fee.
He sang. The audience went berserk because two people that booed had boo, 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 and then Nucci just goes, "Come on, what's the name of the town? Famous town in
Heart of Verdiana."
Yeah, I mean, where they. Not Bussetto, that's where he's born. Anyway.
Also thinking,
yeah, Bussetto is where he's born. I'm just thinking of famous, but Parma! Parma! In Parma. It's at Parma Opera House. That's where it was. And so Nucci ends up singing 15 songs in audience. And the audience went hysterical because he was phenomenal.
He was singing something not too long ago. I saw a video on YouTube.
He sang Macbeth.
He's still out there singing.
He sang with Santi.
Amazing.
Before Nello Santi died.
Now, what do you credit your incredible longevity to? You've been singing, and I've been working with you for 14 years, and I think you sound better at this very moment. You're singing this year when I hear you sing.
I have to say sometimes
you're in great vocal shape, and you keep yourself very healthy.
Well, that is it. Let's face it. That is what it's all about. It's health, and that's a combination of two things. First thing is heredity. You have that. That's one first thing. Second thing is somewhere along the line you got to take care of yourself. So I guess heredity comes in. The people that you've inherited the genes from, they must have taken care of themselves too. So you try to follow that. So I have really been very, very active and strong in taking care of myself. I do yoga, meditate, I exercise every day. I vocalize almost every day. The voice is an instrument. It has to be used. It has to be used properly. And the more properly it's used, the better it is. Yeah. And so I work very hard to maintain. And I think I've maintained very well.
Well, you've been singing with me here 14 years, and a lot of people on the show probably are from the Ocean Grove community. We certainly follow you around and are your fans. When I first came here, I didn't know this, but I was told that you were the voice of the Olive Garden commercials in the 80s. How did you get that job?
It was actually the 90s.
How did that come
it was
out?
90s, yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah, that just was a lark. I auditioned for something, and they liked my voice, and we did. Her name was Bucci, by the way. Bucci, Di Bucci was her name. Michelle, I think was her first name. She was the producer and director, and I did like maybe 8 or 9 of them. And boy, I that was a real shock because all of a sudden, my voice is everywhere, and I was getting residual checks, and it wasn't visual. If it were visual, I think I would be rich today. But it was quite nice to get that, And did quite a few. I did also some Bertolli advertisements and a couple other things too, but I'd love to get back into that.
And your voice is so Italianate and sounds so. Did you grow up with the Neapolitan songs in that repertoire?
No, I didn't. My mother sang songs that were in the dialect, and in fact, on my CDs, the Neapolitan CDs, she helped me very much with the dialect. It's a special language. I think I said a couple years ago in one of my recitals that Neapolitan, by the UNESCO, United Nations Educational Cultural Organization, Science and Organization, declared the Neapolitan dialect as a language, a separate language. And in fact, many Italians, including Pavarotti, don't really pronounce the words that well. When you hear, even I also do not pronounce them that well. But if you hear a real Neapolitan singing, it's unbelievable. Caruso was Neapolitan, and he sang great. But they're beautiful, and I did know some of them, obviously, but not a lot of them.
Now you've done 2 albums of these Neapolitan songs?
2 albums of Neapolitan. I also have 2 albums of songs. One album, Mary Lombardo songs, and one album of Dennis Hymes songs, and they're very interesting too. So I've had fun doing the CDs. Yeah. This is, I really tell you the truth, these 2 albums, I only noticed this after I did them. They're both 75 minutes, 76, almost 76 minutes, each one. I could have made 3 albums. I could have made 3. I mean, really, 50 minutes each, 55 minutes each.
What is it about this repertoire that speaks to you? I mean,
I don't know.
I've heard you do recitals very frequently, and you do these pieces, and always people come from miles around to hear you sing these pieces.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say.
What is it about your connection with the style that you relate to with the words?
I think I might have written on one of these things. I think it probably expressed it better than I can do it. Maybe if I have the right one here, I don't know. Let me see what it says. Yeah, I think it probably does say what I want to say. Yeah. While recording these songs, a deep nostalgia often swept over me, for many of the selections were part of my growing up. The golden voices of Caruso, Gigli, and Schipa filled my formative years with Italian sounds of beauty. I've always strived to emulate their mastery. My mother's family is, in fact, from the province of Campobasso, and some of the Campobasso accent resembles the Neapolitan dialect. So I think that's pretty much what it is.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Ronald. It's so powerful to hear you sing those songs. It's just, and your voice is such everyone has an Italianate spin. It just so naturally fits that repertoire. But on recitals, you love to do lots of different types of music.
I do.
You always
really
do French and German.
I do.
Find that's
now that's my Indiana University background, definitely, because we were required to do that sort of stuff. And in fact, in my freshman year, I had to take Italian, and I think German was my second one, a semester of each, and then of course French later. And each one of those was song repertory, and we literally kept notebooks. I still have them, notebooks like this. Everyone had to sing 8 songs here, 8 songs there, 6 songs there, and we learned, everything.
Yeah,
it's invaluable.
It's learning
exposure
great repertoire. It's like, as a conductor, my favorite thing in the world is having tons of music to learn.
You said that.
2 in the morning, I'm like, that keeps me excited.
Well, it's exciting because you learn stuff you never thought you knew before. Like you were talking about with Gordon about that. What's the Scandinavian guy, the one who's had that esoteric kind of music?
Oh, Arvo Pärt. Oh,
yeah.
One of my favorites. Yeah.
See, I don't even know him. Someone told me about him some years ago, and I heard it, but I'm not familiar with it. I like stuff's great stuff. God,
there's so much great music, and we can only do so much in our lives, but it's a blessing to be able to live in the music. And,
it is, and I enjoy doing the other repertory. I love the French, the German, Scandinavian, the Greek songs, and Rachmaninoff, the Russian stuff. It's great stuff.
So at this point in your career, you've been doing this for so long. COVID hits. How are you seeing the opera industry these days? the music industry.
I feel very sad. Very sad because so many people have lost their livelihood. you think about it. At the Met alone, the chorus, the orchestra, the principals. I mean, thank God some of the chorus and orchestra is covered by insurance and stuff like that, guarantees and stuff. But still, how about the most affected are the solo artists? They're living contract to contract performance.
And they're booked for 2 or 3 years.
Exactly.
I mean, how do you replace any of that?
How do you?
Yeah.
And how do we come back? I mean, I'm hoping that maybe next spring, hopefully, maybe something can happen. But it's not going to happen until earliest is going to be spring. I think. I don't know. But I feel very badly for everybody. I mean, I'm at a point in my life where I'd love to be singing all the time. I still think I can, but it's not the same as for the younger people who need to really, sad.
Now this summer we
we're lucky, weren't we?
this show has been a study in innovation. That's why
sure.
I started this. I was supposed to be conducting my debut in Vienna and my debut in Prague, which were nixed by all this.
I know.
And I said, well, since that's not going to happen, what can I do? And Quentin's a tech. My son's a tech person who's like,
bless you, Quentin.
why don't we do a podcast, Dad? And I'm like, what is that?
What is that?
So I learned. I've been learning how podcasts work, how this stuff works, and just putting it together. And then I said, well, what do I do? Okay, I know a lot of different types of artists, and I just love these conversations.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a phenomenal thing.
But amazing to me is everyone's like what they've had to learn to be able to adapt and to continue music, and like for example, virtual choir recordings, things like that. And how
about Mark's the Jimmy Buffett thing?
Wasn't that a surprise?
It was phenomenal. How come he coordinated the voices so well? How did he do that? He told me how he did it, but
the program does it for you. But he has 10 of those, so you can count.
Oh my God, it was so funny, and the faces.
He's like doing the whole comedy routine with the faces.
My God.
It's very typical Mark
so great. Oh my God.
But I mean, what's it like seeing like the role of technology that's taken place? And
this is now obviously I get an email, I get text, I can go in some apps, but I mean, let's face it, on a scale of 1 to 10, if Quentin is a 10. You're probably a 7 or 8 by now.
We're 6.
You're 6. Okay, 6. Well, if you're 6, then I'm a 1 or 2. Carlene and I are 1 and 2. I think I'm a little ahead of Carlene, but it's close.
But you've got grandkids. They're very good at tech.
Oh, but we don't see them. Oh. We need them. I need them right now.
Get
More
on
ways
Zoom.
than one.
Get on Zoom and
I know.
talk me through this.
But oh man. Oh wow. Jeez.
I tell you, it's been quite an adventure, and but you have done recitals this summer. You did your recital.
Now that do you think about it, when people, when I go golfing. Now we started golfing in the middle of May, starting at one person per cart and 16 minutes apart. No rakes, no water things, nothing. You don't. There's no. You can't go. The flag is in. You can't touch the flag. So everything is. Put your mask on. That's pretty safe. But talking. Talking a distance away from people. Hi, what are you doing? How you doing? Well, there's nothing happening at the Met, Broadway, theater, nothing.
Classical music.
Kaput. Even pop music, kaput. Sean lost about 50 jobs.
I'm sure.
50, at least. And I'm saying, well, you know what? I have actually sung live this year. I have sung a solo recital, 2 quartet recitals, solos. I'm probably one of the few people on the planet who had actually sung live performances, right?
We mentioned Mark before. Mark's wife played the recital series this summer, so he came to the final quartet recital, and he was literally crying. He goes, "I haven't heard live music in 4 months."
See that?
And that struck me.
Well, you make sure that quartet's on the sacred concert.
Oh,
that's what he liked.
It's on YouTube. You can catch that on YouTube.
You got to put it in the concert too, though. You can.
Well, I got to say thank you so much for being here tonight.
Did that pass already? We're finished?
Well, we can keep going, but
no, that's fine. It's good. We're fast.
I find with like Gordon and you, I can talk for hours.
I know we can. That's fantastic.
Well, and before we go, tell us about your 45 years at Ocean Grove. What's that
47.
like? 47 seasons.
The same as Gordon. Gordon and I came together 1974 season. And it's a memorable day because Gordon was on the panel to choose me.
Oh.
But it was interesting because he said a couple things. It was very funny. First one was that the Arch Street Methodist Church in Philadelphia, and Lou Daniels was there, and I can't remember the other. I see the guy's face, and I know him. He's a great guy. and Gordon and a couple people, and I wasn't feeling very well. I took the girl. Melissa was not even 3 years old. She was 2 years old. The girls were like 9 and 11, and the older girls. And we had to spend the day, and I went and sang. I sang okay. I didn't feel great. But Ann Bynum was the church agent. She got me the audition. We got paid, if I tell you this, I can say this, we were paid $15 for a recital in the contract. 15, 1 5. Isn't that good?
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, yeah. And then they said, Gordon, I'll tell 2 stories. First one is Lou Daniels. Lou Daniels says to us, well, we like you very much. Would you like the job? I said, well, sure. What is it? What do you do? He told me what, I had an idea because she wrote down what it was. And he said, would you like to live in a tent? Connie and I looked at each other and said,
what?
We've never been camping in our life. What do you mean a tent? We had no idea. That's the first thing. Second thing was this. Gordon tells this story. I should have told you the story. It's very funny. They had another tenor sang before, and it was Gordon's guy. Some other Gordon's mentioned. And I wish I could say it the way he said it, because at the 25th anniversary that we had a party with the trustees and everybody, he told the story. He told it so beautiful. You know, he's so articulate.
Yeah.
And he told it so beautifully. He said, Ronald sang, and the other guy was kaput or something like that. You know, he didn't say that's not exactly right, but he said Ronald sang, and it was over.
You just know that's right. You know when it's a good fit.
Yeah. So it's 47 years. So it's been great. I want to make 50.
Now, what is it like going in that room, and you know that Caruso's done recitals in there. You know McCormick's done recitals in there.
Yeah, right.
I know when I walk in there, even when I'm alone, I walk in there and I feel some great. I just feel the energy in there. It's so powerful.
Do you know that Gene Perla the other night, the cellist the bass who played for Sean's trio, the cellist.
Now, Sean's your grandson.
My grandson Sean.
A very talented jazz piano player. I'm going to have him on the show down
he's
a couple months.
He's truly, you know, I say this. In the general category, jazz pianists in general are geniuses. I'm sorry, they're composing at the time. Unbelievable. Sean is a genius, but I'm prejudiced. Okay, so we're saying about what?
So what's it like walking in that room, and what do you feel?
Well, Gene Perlo said that he played a couple notes on the bass, and he said he could feel the vibrations.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's the easiest place in the world to sing. The voice just goes.
It's amazing how you can speak on the stage and hear it at any point in the back of a 6,500 seat theater. Yeah.
Phenomenal. I love it.
Leonard Bernstein called it the barn. I think that was the legend.
I think we should do the recitals next year there too. I think we should do everything there if we can. Really. I mean, I know it's the thing with the air conditioning for the youth temple, but open the doors and let the air come in.
I can say honestly, Ronald, that you're one of the people I look up to in my career as people who are like models of how to have a long-standing career and how to be a professional artist. Is that your dedication to your craft, your intellectual curiosity, your kind of your expectations of yourself. Both you and Gordon are one of those people that when I came in here, just kind of as a young artist, just kind of I've grown up with that, and it's
I appreciate that.
High bars indeed to achieve.
That's very nice, Gordon. I appreciate that, Jason. I appreciate that so much. And you know that your musicianship, your hard work, and you really work hard. It's the most important thing because you have the talent. Talent takes you only so far. If you don't have dedication and work hard, it's like who said, luck. Luck is there's no such thing as. I mean, there is luck, certain situations, but you make your own luck in the sense that the harder you work, the more luck you have.
Right, you create your own luck. I mean, there is that one bit of it that get that lucky break.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
That comes after you've prepared and you're ready to go.
Yeah, I think that what someone said, the definition of luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Preparation meets opportunity. I read that once. Very true. But your career is exemplary, and you're doing a fantastic job. You really are.
Like everyone else, we just kind of pivot with the turns and
you make do, right?
When I was planning to conduct it, we're going to go a different direction, and we'll come back to it again.
Yep.
So, well, thank you for spending the time tonight
thank you,
on
Jason.
Music Matters,
thank you so,
and we'll work together again soon.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters 2020. We have another show tomorrow night at 8 o'clock p.m. That's our first 8 o'clock Sunday show. That's going to be with veteran opera agent Matthew Lafer. Matthew was the agent for such artists as Giacomini, we talked about, also Marcello Giordani. He was also a close friend of Luciano Pavarotti. He'll be with us tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Be sure you join us and subscribe on YouTube and like our videos. Be a part of this fast-growing classical music community. And I want to thank you. And remember, keep music alive. Good night.
Addosso sto cuore ingrate che io ti spietto farmo non può addosso lo poco coccia ma ti cui lascia sta e non te corri presso non ti struia solo a guardare se ne saluta la cappa già e chiunta voi tornate poi venuta sta sempre qua la cappa volta torna te io ora canta sempre notte all'urno sposammo in Stai lontana da sto core, e a te volo tuo pensiero. Niente voglio, niente spero, che tenerti sempre a fianco a me. Sì, sicuro è che st'amore, come sto sicuro a te. Oi vita mia, oi core, chi sto cuore, si stata, o prima amore, o prima e l'ultimo sarai per me. Quanta notte non te vedo, non te senten da sti braccia, non te vaso che sta faccia, non ta stregno forte in braccia a me. Ma accettandomi a sti suon, me fai chiamare per te. Oi vita mia, oi cuore, che st'amore, si stata, o prima amore, o prima e l'ultimo sarai per me. Scriva sempre sta contenta, io non penso che a te sola, no pensiero me consola, che tu pensa solamente a me. Ah, più belle tutte belle, non è mai che belle a te. Oi vita mia, oi cuore, chi sto cuore, si stata, o prima amore, o prima e l'ultimo sarai per me.